40% of people who live in Seattle are renting, according to the U.S. Census. A new UW study is taking a look at how the ads for those rentals are continuing Seattle's long history of segregation. King 5's Britt Moore has the story.
At some point, most of the 360,000 renters in Seattle have grappled with trying to figure out which neighborhood to live in. After a quick search on Craigslist, the options are overwhelming. A vintage studio in Capitol Hill, a studio on a quiet street, close to a bus stop. Whew. UW grad student Ian Kennedy says there's more meaning behind those rental ads than meets the eye.
There is racialized discourse in the advertisements. And I think that there's a surprising number of people who maybe wouldn't have expected that.
Kennedy looked at 45,000 rental ads on Craigslist and found a pattern of terms used that he says can perpetrate segregation.
Whiter neighborhoods are described as being rich in history and culture in this quote unquote vintage charm topic. And the less white neighborhoods are described in kind of stereotypical terms as, needing to have more discussion about safety and security.
Reinforcing perceptions that trace back to Seattle's history of redlining.
That kind of overt discrimination has been replaced by these much more subtle social forms that are not officially sanctioned, but no less virulent, no less powerful in maintaining processes of segregation.
Sociology professor Kyle Crowder says the Fair Housing Act of 1968 prevented discrimination in housing, but less blatant forms continued. Fast forward to now, where certain words can describe predominantly white neighborhoods without outright saying it. I asked Kennedy how we can begin to dismantle structural racism that exists within the housing market.
We can take action. Especially white home seekers can think about how they're moving more carefully and, consider a wider scope of neighborhoods.
Britt Moore, King 5 News.